you're looking at a cloud contact center solution. Maybe you've watched some videos, you've met a vendor or two, and you've made your decision. Now it comes to the tricky part, the money. And in today's environment, COVID-19, CFOs quite rightly looking after all the stakeholders, the money is going to be very important. And there are normally two ways that you justify a purchase. First way is to justify it on the basis of cost reduction, or at least cost equalization. And the second way, maybe you're going to combine both, is the revenue side, the sales side, and hopefully improving business. Today's environment, however, I think probably most of those discussions are going to be geared around cost saving, or at least cost neutrality. And a smart CFO will expect to have a conversation with you along the lines of, Paul, don't ask me to spend any new money right now unless you can show me some savings, because however good the value, however good the promise of the future improvement in sales and so on, I've got to look after the money right now. So I'm going to run through a method which I would use, I suggest you use, that can justify the purchase on the basis of cost. The next video, I'm going to cover the second part, which is revenue, but cost. So let's look at how much such a solution is likely to cost. And on a per user per month basis, looking at licenses, support, the minutes, other items, and maybe if you take a total cost of ownership, then you'd put in the cost of implementation, maybe your overheads, the administration and so on. Factor that down to a price or a cost per user per month. What are we talking about? Well, there is a range of solutions in the market, and all these solutions of course have different options. But depending on what type of solution you're looking for, or cloud-based contact center, but what type? It could be anything from 30 to 50 euros, but that could be pounds or US dollars. For the purposes of this discussion, approximately the same. So 30 to 50 euros perhaps, maybe 100, 150, and you could spend up to 200 perhaps, depending on what extras you need in the solution. And I want to go with 100. So 100, in my case, I work in Europe, 100 euros per user per month. So how do we go about justifying that on a cost basis? And I'm going to do it this way, and I encourage you in fact to be able to do this as I'm doing now, talking to you, no notes, no whiteboard, in fact may be helpful to do it on a whiteboard, no spreadsheet, just out of your head. So 100 euros per user per month. How do we do that? Well, I would start with what is the typical or average fully burdened cost for your employees, your agents, let's say. So if you take the total cost, and I think what a lot of people do is they add in company tax or national insurance contributions, but overheads for the building, the desk, the electricity, and so on, security, reception, all of that. And they'll end up doubling perhaps the average cost of the salary. I think, however, in today's world, many businesses are looking to change that. And when you're up in front of the CFO, if you came in and said, I'm justifying this on the basis of I take the salary and double it and now it works, I think she or he will show you the door and say, but Paul, we're not working like that anymore. One of my favorite customers, in fact, are looking at a very program that would see some people spending all their time working from home, some all their time working in the office, and some mixing, maybe coming in 1 or 2 days a week for team meetings and things where you genuinely get inspiration from collaboration and being in the same room and getting something going that you struggle to get over conferencing, video conferencing. So you can't go with doubling. And I think adding 20% for genuine costs, national insurance and pensions and all those things are fine. So what is a typical cost in Europe? And that really varies. I mean, I've seen the Nordics paying, this is an area of the world, an area of Europe where standards are high, taxes high, living costs are high and salaries are higher. Anything up to 100,000 a year. There are perhaps economies in southern Europe that aren't comparable to those in the north, a different economic environment altogether, much lower. Well, I'm going to go with 30,000 euros a year as a typical salary over the range. Remember, this is perhaps not always just what you might think of as a traditional classic contact center, 8 hours a day on the phone. These are perhaps people that wouldn't describe themselves always as agents, they're more experts. 30,000, 20% burden gets me to 36,000. So I've got 36,000 divided by 12, which is 3,000 a month versus a cost of 100. Well, 10% of 3,000 is 300. I can do this in my head, and 100 to 300 is a third of that. It's 3.3%. So if I can justify on cost grounds that I could save 3.3% of my costs, my total salary agent cost, including overheads, well, at least we're level. 3.3%. So how am I going to do that? Well, I want to look at the number of minutes in a day, and let's say there are 7.5 hours in the day, which is 7 6s, 420 and 30, 450 minutes in a day. 10% of that is 45 minutes. So 3.3%, a third of that, is 15 minutes. I need to save 15 minutes of an agent's time a day to at least break even. Now, they're not going to be on the phone. I mean, you know that I represent a business that is in the market of telephony and telephony integration for the contact center. So how much time on the phone a day? 2 hours? How many calls a day? An hour? Well, maybe an average call is 5 minutes. That's 12 an hour, 24. Let's call it 30 calls a day. And I've got 2 hours, 5 minutes a call roughly, so 30 calls. I need to save 15 minutes across 30 calls, and that's 30 seconds a call. So again, keeping things really simple, no whiteboards, no PowerPoint, no notes. I need to show that I could save 30 seconds on a call where there's going to be, in my example, 30 calls a day, 2.5 hours of work a day, and where at least break even. Can I save 30 seconds a call? That's what it comes down to. Well, if you've been watching my videos, and of course there's plenty of other material available, then you'll have already positioned the solution in your mind and in writing to say these are the reasons why that's going to happen. Strategic and tactical routing, shortening the length of calls, getting to the right agent first time, all those things that I've already taken you through with all those videos. For 30 seconds a call, can it be done? And in my view, absolutely. And the beauty of doing it this way is a lot of people would say, oh, I think we're going to do much better than that. And by the way, there's a whole bunch of other cost savings that we can take into account. So savings in terms of power and lighting and the hardware and the software and maintenance of those solutions. You can't, in my view, rely on those things, because the CFO may turn around and say, Paul, I've already got them on the balance sheet and I'm already writing them off over some years. We just paid for them. What are we going to do with them? And lots of other arguments that I think will come to tell you you can't use those aspects in your ROI. But in my view, you pick one or two major things that you can use. So that'll get you to the cost part. Now, 3.3%, a CFO is then going to say to you something like, then show me how you're going to make those savings. 3.3% of savings a year. Well, this is about efficiency now. If you're in the lucky position that your business is growing, then you're just going to say, well, we're not going to hire another 50 people next year, we'll reduce that by 3.3% overall. Maybe you can't do that. Maybe you're in the position of not growing but staying still. Maybe you're even having to reduce right now. Well, what is your natural staff turnover in your department today? And I bet for almost everybody it's greater than 3.3%, 3 people in 100 a year leaving, that you would say, well, we just won't replace them. That was my budget for staff and salaries. I'll take a 3.3% reduction in that so I can pay for this solution. And that's the way I think it can be done on the cost side. If you watch the next video, we're going to talk about how to do it on the revenue side. Thanks for watching.